Heartwarming revelation. Billionaire discovers his daughter's incredible bond with the black maid. James Caldwell sat at the head of the long, marble table in his ornate office, overlooking the golden glow of San Francisco's skyline. A self-made billionaire in his late 40s, James had built his empire through sheer grit. Yet, behind his lavish lifestyle and Wall Street success lay an emptiness, gnawing at him daily. He barely noticed the clock ticking down the hours until he would rush home, only to arrive to a cold house where his wife, Margaret, was always preoccupied, and Lily, their teenage daughter, felt more like a stranger than family. In the midst of this emptiness was Grace, their dedicated maid. A strong yet gentle woman in her 30s, Grace came from humble beginnings. She carried stories of perseverance that breathed life into the dullness of his home. Laughter echoed down the hall each time Grace entertained Lily with tales of her childhood daring escapes, family dinners around a cramped table, and dreams born of hardship. James watched from a distance, dismissing their playful banter as mere childish folly. One evening, as the sun set, James caught a glimpse of Grace and Lily in the kitchen. They danced together, their laughter mixing with the hum of sizzling pans. James felt a twinge of annoyance. Why was his daughter spending so much time with their maid? But those feelings didn't surface until the day when Grace got the call, the one that would shatter her world. Her family faced eviction due to a sudden medical emergency. Grace hid her tears, maintaining a brave exterior. But James could see the weight of her burdens. It merely intensified his internal tension. He had grown up hearing about hard work, but standing at this crossroads made him question everything. A charity event addressing economic inequality loomed ahead, and even amid his busy schedule, he felt the pressure to attend. As he was swept into the lavish event with other affluent guests, an internal struggle broke through. He peered at Grace, positioned far from the table, seemingly insignificant among the elite. Watching the way Lily smiled at her, a flicker of recognition dawned on him. Did he fail to recognize Grace's worth as a human being? The air thickened with tension, but then it happened. The talent show began. Grace took the stage, her hands gripping the microphone, a soft quiver in her voice. As she began to sing, the room hushed, and James felt a jolt in his chest. Her raw, soulful voice cut through the pretentious atmosphere, captivating everyone in the audience. For the first time, James felt the power of her presence. She wasn't just a maid. She was an artist, a bearer of stories beyond fleeting wealth. When her eyes connected with his, all deep-seated prejudices surged to the forefront. Could he really support Grace and embrace her struggle? Did he even know his daughter's heart when she found joy in Grace? This moment felt pivotal, his chance to influence not only Grace's family path, but also the relationship he had dangerously neglected with Lily. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With Grace's beautiful voice still resonating within him, James wrestled with overwhelming emotions. In a world so focused on wealth, could he bridge the divide of class to embrace humanity's true value? Would he finally reach out to Lily, who seemed so inspired by Grace? The charity event closed, but tensions hung thick in the air. His heart raced. Was it too late to embrace the dignity in those he had overlooked? What lay ahead could unravel the tightly wound life he had created. An opportunity for transformation was beckoning, and it threatened to shatter his meticulously built barriers. The days that followed the talent show felt surreal for James. He couldn't shake the echo of Grace's voice from his mind. It was as if the warmth of her performance had awakened something deep within him that he had long buried under stacks of paperwork and corporate responsibilities. Each time he strolled through his opulent home, the absence of the usual disregard for Grace's presence shifted to a newfound awareness. He returned home from work later than usual one evening, still grappling with the echoes of the event. As he stepped into the kitchen, the familiar scent of spices wafted through the air, and there was Grace, immersed in preparing dinner. Instead of slipping away to his office, he leaned against the doorway, watching her work with a sense of admiration. There was something beautiful about the way she moved her hands rhythmically chopping vegetables, her face illuminated by the warm glow of the stove. Lily entered, her face brightening. "Hey, Grace, can you tell me that story about the tree climbing again?" She beamed, and James felt a knot tightening in his chest. The bond between them was undeniable. "Of course, sweetheart," Grace responded, her voice like honey. "But you have to promise me you'll try climbing that big oak in the park this weekend." "I promise." Lily laughed. James felt the longing in his heart swell. He remembered how their home used to feel full of life, filled with laughter and stories. But somewhere along the way, between meetings and board calls, that warmth had eroded, replaced with silence and disconnection. He stepped deeper into the room, forcing himself into this new space he was reluctant to explore. "Grace," he began, hesitating as the words caught in his throat. At that moment, he realized how little he knew about her. More importantly, how little he had cared to know. I want to help." She paused, turning towards him, surprise flickering her eyes as if he were a specter troubling her peace. "Help? What do you mean?" "I mean," he swallowed hard, feeling exposed. "I know your family is in trouble. It's not right. I want to support you in any way I can." Lily's face lit up with curiosity, her eyes shifting between them. "Daddy, you could." "Lily," he cut in, focusing back on Grace. "Tell me what you need. We can work something out." Grace's expression hardened for a brief moment, and he saw a storm brewing in her eyes. "You don't have to do this, Mr. Caldwell. I appreciate it, but I've been managing my own problems since I can remember." Her response cut deep, igniting a mixture of emotions within him. This was not about charity. It felt personal. "This is more than just about charity," he pressed on. "We can achieve something here, a partnership, a bridge. You matter, Grace." Those words hung in the air, weighted with sincerity. She opened her mouth, but seemed lost for words. Lily's voice broke the silence, innocently pressing, "Please, Grace. My dad can really help. We can all be friends." James could almost see the wheels turning in Grace's mind, her brow furrowing as she considered the implications. What would his offer mean? Trust was fragile, and the roads ahead were uncertain. Then a flicker of vulnerability crossed her face. "You say that, but can it really change anything?" Just then, James felt his own fracture, the walls he had built nearly collapsing. The vulnerability in Grace's eyes echoed his own. Could this moment be the beginning of real connection? Of understanding? He took a breath, feeling the pressure. "I want to find out." A moment stretched between them, both searching for the right words that would bridge their worlds. Unbeknownst to them, that night was only the beginning. Something was shifting. The barriers James built began to crack, revealing the possibility of a brighter future. Yet beneath the surface, darker challenges loomed. A storm had been brewing, one that would test the strength of their new bonds. How would they navigate the consequences of connecting across worlds? And could they stand together when the winds of truth began to blow? The days that followed felt like a delicate balance between hope and fear for James. He replayed their conversation in his mind, trying to decipher the emotions that danced on Grace's face. Each day, as he returned home from work, he found himself looking forward to the kitchen. The familiar sense of spices and sounds of laughter had become his solace. Lily had taken to spending more time with Grace, pulling her into games and stories. Watching them together rendered something like joy in James's heart. But little did he know, beneath that surface of hope, Grace was wrestling with deeper doubts. On one particular evening, James found himself seated on the living room couch, immersed in an email chain about a new business merger. But the words blurred as the laughter from the kitchen chilled his concentration. Grace was helping Lily with homework, her voice laced with warmth and energy that even the thick walls couldn't contain. Curiosity tugged at him, and he closed his laptop, rising to his feet. As he approached the kitchen, he noticed the pair huddled close together, Grace patiently explaining something about fractions while Lily scribbled in her notebook. "Mommy says you were an amazing singer," Lily chirped, glancing up at Grace. Eyes filled with admiration that a flush colored Grace's cheeks, but a reluctant smile crept up. "It was just a fun night, Lily. Nothing special." James leaned against the doorframe, his heart tightening. "Fun, huh? You made it look like magic," he said with a smile, and the two turned to him. The moment felt electric, as if they were all caught in an unseen thread connecting them. Grace's gaze shifted from him to Lily, as if she were weighing the words. It was a good escape from reality, she admitted. There was a heaviness in her tone, one that pulled at James's curiosity. Escape? He asked gently, stepping fully into the kitchen. What is pulling at you? The question sank in the air. Grace's eyes met his, revealing a mix of trepidation and thoughtfulness. It's just sometimes it feels easier to pretend, to smile, and sing while everything around is falling apart. Her voice trembled slightly, and James felt the undertow of her sorrow. Grace, you don't have to pretend with me. I care about you, he said. The words were raw, and in that moment, he couldn't pretend, either. Lily shifted her weight, sensing the weight of their conversation. Can we all be good friends, then? Friends help each other. James chuckled softly, breaking the tension. Exactly. He took a step closer to Grace. But we have to be honest, right? What can I do to help? Grace's expression was conflicted. She looked at the little girl, then back at James. This isn't just charity. It's about pride, about making sure my family stays together. James felt a pang. He understood pride, the fierce way it could wrap around someone's heart. If it would make a difference, I do want to support you. We can find a way. For a heartbeat, her resolve wavered. What would that even look like? Her voice softened, vulnerability peeling back the layers. It was a question that hung in the space between them like a breath not yet taken. Let us explore together, James said, feeling hope pulsing through him. You and Lily deserve a brighter tomorrow. I want to be part of it. Just then, the tension in the room transformed, and the atmosphere felt less like an unresolved tug-of-war. As Grace took a breath, a smile hid in the corners of her mouth. Maybe we can start with something small. But before James could respond, the front door swung open. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Grace's expression shifted to one of alarm, her eyes wide as she recognized the silhouette framed by the doorway. What is he doing here? She whispered, panic creeping into her voice. James glanced toward the door, uncertainty washing over him. As her past materialized in their home, could their fragile connection withstand this intrusion? He felt the storm clouds gathering again, darker than before. What was this new challenge they would face together? And would it be enough to break the chains that had held Grace back for so long? James's heart raced as he tried to make sense of the figure standing in the doorway. The man wore a weary expression, but there was a coldness in his eyes that sent an unsettling shiver down James's spine. Jake, Grace whispered, each syllable laced with dread. The name hung in the air as if it were a specter resurrected from the past. Lily, blissfully unaware of the weight of that name, tugged at Grace's hand. Mommy, is this your friend? Her innocent smile faded as she sensed the shift in atmosphere. Not exactly, Grace breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. James stepped forward instinctively, his protective instincts kicking in. Grace, are you okay? He asked, his tone firm, directing it more at the intruder than at his friend. Jake took a step into the room, eyes scanning its contents as if to claim them. I'm just here to talk, he said, but the bitterness in his tone suggested threat rather than discussion. Talk, Grace replied, incredulity etching across her face. You have no right to just show up like this. James suddenly felt as if he were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to dive into unknown waters. He glanced sideways at Grace, reading the sheer panic in her eyes. We can handle this, he said, trying to project confidence. It felt strange to sound so sure when internally he was grappling with a mix of disbelief and anger. Handle what? Jake challenged, the corner of his lips curling into a sneer. You think you can just waltz in and play family when you have no idea what we're really dealing with? Grace placed a protective arm around Lily, shielding her from the escalating tension. This isn't the time. Jake, she said, her voice steady but strained. You need to leave. Not until we talk about our daughter, Jake spat out, the word cutting through the room like a blade. James's heart dropped. The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. Their daughter. He glanced at Grace, whose composure began to fade, her mask of bravery cracking. Don't you dare use her as leverage, Grace shot back, her voice rising. You made your choices. I've done everything I can to protect us. Lily stood frozen, clutching her mother's leg, eyes darting back and forth between the adults as she sensed the thick tension suffocating the room. Mommy? She squeaked, confusion written across her tiny face. Sweetie, Everything is okay, no, it isn't. Jake interrupted, frustration spilling over. You don't get to pretend everything is fine while I'm out here trying to be a father. The word father echoed painfully in the silence that followed. James felt his blood boil. No one had the right to claim that title when they weren't acting like it. Protecting Grace and Lily had just become an uncompromising priority. Grace, he said carefully, searching her face for a sign. Tell me what to do. She hesitated, torn between the urge to shield Lily and the need to confront her past. James could see every ounce of her struggle playing out before him. Finally, Grace breathed in deeply. I need you to trust me, she whispered, almost to herself. But James heard her, and he silently vowed to stand by her side. Just tell me when, he said softly, his eyes locked onto hers. Jake shifted uncomfortably, sensing the resolve between them, but unwilling to back down. This isn't over, Grace, he warned, starting to retreat, but leaving a hollow echo in his wake. As the door slammed shut behind him, the air in the room thickened with unvoiced fears and unresolved tensions. Mommy? Lily's tiny voice broke the silence again, drawing both their attentions back to her. Sweetheart, Grace knelt down, brushing hair from Lily's face, her own eyes shimmering with tears. They both needed comfort now, yet James felt the weight of 1,000 unsaid words pressing down on them. What would they have to face next? And how could he help Grace confront the very past she sought to protect them from? Grace's heart raced, each beat echoing the words Jake had thrown at them. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with the unspoken emotions swirling between them. She knelt down, gathering Lily close. The little girl nestled against her, sensing her mother's unease yet unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. James stood a little distance away, torn between wanting to comfort Grace and the urgency of making sense of everything. He watched as Grace's fingers gently brushed through Lily's hair. The tender moment sparked an instinctive urge in him to protect their makeshift family fiercely. Lily, sweetheart, Grace's voice trembled as she spoke. Can you go play in your room for a little while? Just until Mommy and James finish talking? Lily's big eyes flickered between her mother and James, confusion shadowing her face. But I want to be with you, she replied softly, her small voice cracking. Grace forced a smile, but it felt like a fragile mask. I know, baby, but I need you to be brave for Mommy just a little longer. Can you do that? James admired Grace's effort to ensure they maintained some normalcy for their daughter, even amid chaos. He wanted to embrace her, to convey solidarity, but he felt frozen, waiting for her to take the lead. After what felt like an eternity, Lily finally nodded reluctantly. Okay, but I'll be right here if you need me. With that, she turned and padded away, her little footsteps echoing against the hardwood floors as the door clicked shut behind her. The tension in the room spiked. James turned to Grace. What was he talking about? Their daughter? Tears shimmered in Grace's eyes, the weight of memories threatening to spill over. It's complicated, James. Jakey's not just some old acquaintance. He was someone from my past. I thought I'd never have to deal with him again. So you really have a child together? His voice was careful, sensing the fragility of the moment. Grace nodded, her gaze dropping to the floor. A daughter. I thought I'd protected Lily from that part of my life. I didn't want her to have to bear the burden of knowing of having him in it. The revelation shook James deeply. He felt the anger return, heating his blood. But you had every right to keep her safe. How dare he come here? As if claiming her gives him power. I know. But in his mind, he thinks he has a right, Grace said, her voice trembling. I need to confront this. I can't keep running forever. Not when he can resurface like this. James stepped forward, determined. Then we'll confront it together. We'll make sure he understands there's no place for him in either of your lives. Grace looked up, their eyes locking. In that moment, a flicker of hope glimmered like a beacon. You really mean that? More than anything, he replied, his voice steady, grounding. I'm with you, no matter what happens. You're not alone in this anymore. Just then, the weight of a new fear settled between them. What would confronting Jake mean? What lines would they have to cross? The uncertainty was palpable, yet beneath it all, there was a growing strength, one rooted in trust and love. But in the back of Grace's mind, a question lurked. What if Jake escalated this? What if he fought? What if he was right? James's thoughts raced too. Could they muster the courage they need to face whatever turmoil was coming? Let us prepare for the worst, he said finally, determination etching every word. Because no matter what, I'll be here with you. I promise. A sense of relief washed over Grace, but it didn't erase the storm brewing just beyond their walls. Together, they would have to wean out the truth from lies. And as they made plans, one question loomed large. If Jake really pushed the issue, how far would they really be willing to go to protect each other? The next morning, the early light filtered through the soft curtains, casting a warm glow in the living room. But instead of comfort, Grace felt a tight knot of anxiety in her stomach. Today was the day she would confront Jake. The reality of it felt overwhelming. She glanced at James, who was quietly sipping his coffee, his brows furrowed in thought. "Do you think Lily is okay?" Grace asked, glancing toward the door leading to her daughter's room. James set down his cup, his expression softening. "She seems strong, Grace. Just like her mother." He offered a reassuring smile, but Grace could see the tinge of worry shadowing it. "I can't shake the feeling that I'm dragging her into a fight that could hurt her." She rubbed her temples, trying to soothe the rising tension. "Grace, you're not dragging her into anything. You're protecting her by facing this head-on." His voice was steady, filled with a kind of resolve that made her heart swell a little. "Yeah, but what if Jake fights dirty? What if he tries to manipulate her?" The what-if swarmed like a relentless storm. James leaned forward, his tone firm yet gentle. "Then we fight back. Together. We'll make sure she knows that she is safe and loved. You have to trust yourself, and trust that you're doing what's best for both of you." Grace took a deep breath, letting his words wash over her. Sometimes it felt too heavy, the weight of motherhood and the fear of failure. But as James spoke, she realized she didn't have to carry it alone. "I need to prepare," she said finally, standing up. "I don't want to go into this unarmed." James nodded, a sense of purpose visibly settling over him. "What do you need? I'll help in any way I can." Over the next hour, they mapped out a plan. Grace's heart raced as they reviewed everything. When each potential scenario was laid out, the strength of their partnership began to shine through. They discussed how to approach Jake, where to meet, and what key points were non-negotiable for her. As they prepared, Lily bounced into the room, bright and innocent as ever. "Can I help?" Grace knelt to her level, meeting her daughter's curious eyes. "Sweetheart, Mommy has some grown-up stuff to take care of today. It's important, but I promise, after that, we'll do something fun." Lily pouted slightly, her little brows knitted together. "Like what? Maybe we can bake some cookies together?" Lily's face lit up, and for a moment, the heaviness lifted. "Yes, cookies." Grace smiled, her heart warmed by her daughter's joy, but the reality of the day loomed. She glanced at James, his eyes focused, filled with unwavering support. They finished their preparations, and just before they left, Grace found a quiet moment alone. She stepped out onto the porch, feeling the cool breeze against her skin. "All right, Jake," she whispered, determination building inside her. "Let us see what you're really made of." The drive to the cafe where they agreed to meet felt endless. Time stretched, the anxiety coiling tighter and tighter. With each passing moment, she worried if she had made the right choice. Once they arrived, Grace could feel the butterflies eating at her stomach. She took a deep breath, mustered her courage, and stepped inside. The familiar smell of coffee and pastries filled the air, but it did little to calm her nerves. James took hold of her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. They navigated through the bustling crowd, and just like that, there he was Jake, leaning casually against a counter, a smirk playing on his lips as he spotted them. All the courage she had gathered now teetered on the edge of uncertainty. Would she be able to stand her ground? As they approached him, a sudden chill ran down her spine. What if he took everything away? What if he turned Lily against her? But before she could linger too long in that doubt, James's hand tightened around hers. Inspired by his calm presence, Grace stepped forward, ready to confront the man who had haunted her past, and maybe, just maybe, find the strength to reclaim their future. The first words Jake spoke chilled her to the bone. "Well, if it isn't the happy little family. Are you ready for a little chat, Grace?" The storm was about to begin, and neither of them knew just how fierce it would become. Grace's heart raced at Jake's taunting words. She felt the warmth of the cafe fade away, replaced by a suffocating pressure that clung to her chest like a heavy weight. This was at the moment she'd been both dreading and longing for. But now, standing in front of him, the memories washed over her in waves. The shattered promises, the bitterness, the fear that had haunted her for years. That James's grip on her hand was steady, a lifeline in this storm of emotions. "You got this," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the clattering dishes and hushed conversations around them. "Jake," Grace said, forcing herself to look him in the eye. The smirk on his face twisted her stomach into knots. "We need to talk about Lily." His eyebrows shot up, feigning innocence. "Lily? What makes you think this is about her?" "Don't play games," she shot back, her voice stronger than she felt. "I know you want to be in her life, but it can't be under your terms." Jake leaned back against the counter, an arrogant glint lighting up his eyes. "And what terms are those, Grace? Are you here to lecture me about being a father? Look, just because you've moved on doesn't mean Lily is going to forget me." Each word felt like a jab, designed to provoke. Grace wanted to retreat, to hide from the confrontation, but she couldn't. Her daughter was at stake. "Lily loves you because I've allowed her to believe you care," she said, her voice rising with emotion. "But if you think for 1 second that I'm going to let you manipulate her, you are sorely mistaken." A flicker of surprise crossed Jake's face, quickly replaced by hostility. "Manipulate? You think I want to hurt her? Don't you realize you're the one keeping her away from me?" The audacity of his words made her blood boil. "This isn't just about you, Jake. It's about her. She deserves to feel safe and loved, not caught in the middle of our mess." "Safe? Loved?" He laughed, the sound dark and mocking. "You think that word means anything to me? You know me better than that. You always have." With each passing moment, Grace felt her confidence slipping. What if he was right? Could he turn Lily against her? The fears returned, gnawing at the edges of her resolve. James, sensing the shift, stepped forward. "We are not here to argue. We need to set ground rules. It's not just about your rights, but Lily's well-being." His eyes were fixed, unwavering, as he addressed Jake directly. "Rules?" Jake sneered, the smirk widening into a grin that sent ice through Grace's veins. "What makes either of you think I'll follow your rules? You think you can control me?" "I don't need to control you, Jake," Grace replied, her voice steadying, a newfound determination sparking within her. "You just need to realize the consequences of your actions. You have a choice here. Either be a real father to Lily or risk losing access entirely." Jake's expression shifted, a momentary flash of uncertainty clouding his features. She thought she saw him waver. Could there still be hope for them all to find a common ground? "Are you threatening me?" he asked. But now, the cockiness was laced with surprise. "Not a threat, just the reality of what you face." A silence hung heavy between them, the cafe noise fading into a dull roar. A young couple at the next table exchanged glances, their conversation suspended as they absorbed the tense interaction. Then, finally, Jake's gaze hardened. "You know I don't back down easily." "Neither do I," Grace countered, feeling brave enough to stand her ground. This was about her daughter, and she would fight for Lily with everything she had. But just before Jake could respond, a small voice piped up from behind them. "Mommy?" "Lily." Grace's heart dropped as she turned to see her daughter standing just inside the cafe entrance, her innocent eyes wide with confusion. Jake's attention shifted immediately, a predatory look crossing his face. "Lily, sweetheart, you're supposed to be with Grandma." But before Grace could grab her, Jake took a step forward, an unsettling smile spread across his face. "Hey there, kiddo. Want to come chat with your dad?" "Jake, don't," Grace began, but it was too late. The air crackled with anxiety as she watched the scene unfold. Would he pull Lily into his web? Would this be the moment everything spiraled out of control? Her breath hitched in her throat, and she felt James shift beside her, his presence a solid support against the turmoil brewing within. But for all the strength she drew from him, she could still feel her resolve wavering in the face of danger. Standing at this crossroads, Grace had to decide. How far would she go to protect Lily from a father like Jake? The stakes had never been this high. As the tension thickened, a single thought unfolded in her mind. This battle was just beginning. What followed would either break her or finally set them free. "Mommy!" Lily's voice cut through the tension like glass shattering. Grace's heart squeezed painfully as she turned to her daughter, her small frame trembling with uncertainty. "Why are you talking to him?" Jake crouched down, a faux gentleness in his tone. Lily, sweetie, we were just having a grown-up conversation. Come here. I've missed you. No. Grace intervened, stepping protectively in front of Lily. You don't get to decide when you want to be a father, Jake. You don't get to just walk in and act like everything is fine. Lily shifted slightly behind Grace, the innocence in her eyes replaced by confusion. She looked between her mom and Jake, who was now standing again, arms crossed, irritation flickering across his face. See, you're scaring her, Jake replied, his voice laced with mock concern. I'm her dad. I have a right to talk to her. Do you? Grace shot back, her heart racing. What about the rights you've ignored all these years? You think you can just waltz back in because it's convenient for you? Lily's small hand tugged at Grace's shirt, pulling her attention back. Mommy, I'm okay. I want to talk to him. The words felt like a blade slicing through Grace's defenses. No, sweetheart, you don't understand. Grace's voice trembled, the panic bubbling up again. The last thing she wanted was for Lily to believe that siding with Jake was safe. Lily looked so small, caught in their battle, and the thought of dragging her into the chaos made Grace's stomach churn. But Jake seized the opportunity. See, even she wants to talk to me. You can't stop her. He spread his arms wide, a facade of openness that felt ominous. It was as if he relished the moment. James's grip tightened around Grace's hand, and he quietly stepped closer to Lily, anchoring her with his presence. How about we all take a breath? He said, infusing a calmness that provided a stark contrast to the brewing storm. Lily, your mom and Jake were talking about how to make this work for you, right? Lily nodded, her wide eyes darting to Jake. I want to hear what he has to say. See, Jake smirked, using Lily's trust as a weapon. She just wants what's best for her. And I can be that. Grace glared at him, determination hardening in her chest. This wasn't just about him, about his words that twisted and turned like knives. It was about Lily's happiness and safety. She had imagined this moment so many times, but never like this, never with Jake ready to strike. Lily, I know you're curious, Grace said gently, kneeling down to be at her daughter's level. But you have to understand that some people say things just to get what they want. Sometimes they don't mean them. I don't want him to be mean, Lily whispered, biting her lip as her eyes flickered to Jake, who now wore an expression that could chill ice. Then you need to trust the people who love you, baby. Grace pressed her forehead against Lily's, grounding them both. That's why we're here. To make sure you're safe. But just then, realization hit her. Jake's bravado masked something deeper. Was this truly just a game to him? Did he even care about the mess he was making? Let us make it simple, Jake interjected, his voice low and edged with a newfound intensity. If I can't talk to my daughter, I might need to take this to lawyers. You really want to risk that? The words hung in the air, laden with threat. Lily's hand shook against her mother's leg, and Grace's blood ran cold. Don't you dare use her against me. Grace fumed, despite the knot of fear twisting in her stomach. As the cafe buzzed around them, time seemed to stretch. Grace's heart raced. Would this turn into a battle no one could win? The stakes had just escalated, and she needed to find a way to outmaneuver Jake without shattering the fragile trust between her and Lily. In that moment, she realized this wasn't just about defending her territory. It was about forging a path towards something brighter. Could coexistence ever be possible with someone like Jake? Lily's wide eyes looked at them, expectant, and Grace felt the weight of her daughter's gaze on her. What am I going to do? Grace whispered to herself, and before she could gather her thoughts, Jake took another step. Think about it, Grace. You know what I'm capable of. She needed a plan. Fast. Her daughter deserved better than a game of power. But how would she turn the tide? With choices narrowing and tension edging up, the next move would define everything for Lily. Would they be pulled apart, or could they find a way through this together? And what hidden truths could unravel in the process? Grace felt her heart race, a mix of panic and determination stirring inside her. Jake's words hung over them, heavy with a threat she wouldn't let sink in. She couldn't afford to be intimidated. Not now. Not when Lily's future hung in the balance. Lily, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, let us go sit at that table over there. She gestured toward a corner booth, far from Jake's invasive presence. I want to talk to you privately. Why can't we just talk here, Mommy? Lily asked, her innocence a blade that cut deep. Because I need to explain things to you, sweetheart. Things about Jake that you might not understand right now. Grace's eyes didn't leave Lily's as she spoke. Hoping to drive home that this was for her safety that as they started to move away, Jake surged forward, his tone shifting. You can't just hide her away, Grace. She deserves to know her father. His voice was low but clipped, a man who felt losing control. Her safety comes first. Grace shot back, her heart thudding in her chest as they reached the booth. She lowered them both onto the plush seat, creating a barrier between the chaos and the calm she desperately wanted to maintain. Lily looked up at her mom, her brows knit in confusion. Why don't you like him, Mommy? He asked my daddy. The word felt charged, heavy with implications. Grace struggled to find the right answer. Sweetheart, it's complicated. He has hurt our family before, and now he is trying to play nice. It's all a little confusing. But he says he can take us to the park, and we can have fun, Lily argued softly, her voice trembling with hope. Listen to me, Grace said, her urgency rising. Fun isn't everything. It's also about the people you can trust, people who will always be there for you, no matter what. Jake has not proven he can be that person. Just then, Jake's shadow loomed over them as he leaned against the booth. This isn't about trust, Grace. This is about a child knowing her parent. Grace looked up at him, her instincts screaming to protect Lily. Knowing a parent means safety too. If I let Lily go with you, how do I know you won't just disappear again? Or worse, because I've changed. Jake's voice escalated into a sort of desperate plea, but the anger behind it was unmistakable. Grace shook her head. Change takes time. Proving you're changed means actions, not just words. She felt Lily grip her hand tighter, a silent affirmation that she was still in this with her. Jake's expression flickered briefly, fear mixed with anger. You really want to do this, Grace? You think I'm going to just let you keep her all to yourself? Lily turned and looked between them, her small face caught in a storm. Mommy, what if he never goes away? I don't want that. I want my daddy. The words cut through Grace. She didn't want to be the villain in her daughter's story, but she had to protect her. Lily, sometimes we have to make hard choices to keep our loved ones safe. For a moment, the room fell silent as the cafe continued to buzz around them. Grace was acutely aware of the pressure that weighed down on her. Lily deserved better. Jake stood there, a mix of frustration and disbelief twisting his features. You're playing with fire, Grace. Watch what you're doing. Watch what you're doing. Grace shot back, fire igniting in her chest. Using our daughter as leverage isn't being a father. Her voice softened as she turned back to Lily. You have the right to know him, Lily, but it doesn't mean you have to trust him yet. It's all about taking steps together. And right now, we're taking our time. Grace could feel the anger radiating from Jake, a coiling storm. But she wouldn't back down. Not while Lily was watching. Let us take a breath, all right? She said, trying to gauge Jake's next move. Let us think this through carefully. For Lily's sake, we all need to be on the same page. Lily glanced nervously between them, uncertainty creeping into her small frame. But where do we go from here? Maybe it's time for honesty. Then Jake's voice was ominous, but the masked threat igniting a fire in Grace. What would force him to be real, she thought? What would it take for him to truly show up for Lily? It dawned on Grace that the next steps needed to unfold differently. If they were going to find a way forward, she needed to take an initiative that could shatter the game they were caught in. The air thickened as she braced herself for the coming storm. But was she strong enough to find a path where all could thrive? Jake, if we're going to talk, it's time we lay everything on the table. No more games. Grace's pulse quickened with her words, the tension swelled, and she realized this might be the only way to break the cycle. As she looked at Jake, anticipation danced in the air. What revelations were waiting to unfold? Would they stand a chance at a new beginning? Or was this just the start of a deeper entanglement? And as that thought settled, Grace found herself wondering if the truth would be friend or foe. The atmosphere in the cafe shifted yet again, a heavy silence cloaking them. Grace took a deep breath, grounding herself in the determination she had mustered for this confrontation. Jake's stony expression revealed nothing, but she felt the storm simmering beneath the surface. There was no turning back. They needed clarity, no more riddles, no more veils. All right, Jake, she began, locking eyes with him, her heart racing with each word. Let us talk about Lily. Really talk. Jake shifted, the tension between them tense as a tightly drawn bowstring. Fine, he said, voice steady but his fists clenched. What do you want to know? Grace felt a surge of courage. She pressed on. This isn't just about you wanting her in your life when it's convenient for you. If you really want to be a part of her world, it has to be because you have her best interests at heart, not because you want something from me. From you? Jake scoffed, leaning in slightly. You think I want anything from you? I just want to be her dad. Then prove it, Grace shot back. Prove that you can show up consistently. Prove that you can be the kind of father Lily deserves, someone who shows respect, love, and care, not just when it suits you. The mixture of anger and regret flashed across Jake's face. She seized the moment, feeling a surge of power. You have to face that you've left scars, Jake. It's not just about wanting to play house when it fits you. Lily should know the truth of who you are, and we need to navigate it carefully. If you can't handle that truth, maybe it's better that you stay away for her sake. Jake's demeanor faltered. You're throwing my past in my face like I'm some kind of monster, he said, voice low and edged. I'm not saying you're a monster, Grace replied, keeping her voice even. But if you want to be a good father, you have to understand that trust takes time to rebuild. You have to earn it. You want a relationship with Lily? Then step up. Stop hiding behind threats and what-ifs. The cafe filled with the noise of pots and pans, a world unaware of the battle unfolding at that corner booth. Grace felt a subtle shift in the air, as if other patrons were tuning in. Lily fidgeted, worry etched on her little face. What if he's really changed, Mommy? Grace smiled softly, kneeling beside her daughter. That's what we're figuring out, sweetie. It takes time, and it's a big responsibility. You'll get to decide how to feel about him. Just know that you can always tell me how you feel, okay? At that moment, Jake hesitated, his arrogance melting slightly under the weight of Grace's words. I'm not that person anymore, he said quietly, almost regretfully. I want to be there for her, then show it. Grace responded, her heart softening as she sensed a flicker of sincerity. You need to be consistent, reliable, and more than just words. The fierceness of the fight had shifted into something deeper, rawer. It felt like they were navigating jagged waters, and both were beginning to truly recognize the stakes involved. Let us set boundaries, James interjected, stepping into the mix, his voice steadfast. If we're going to make this work, it needs to be on the right foundation. Lily will only be open to building a relationship with you if she feels safe. Jake nodded slowly, though uncertainty hung in the air, almost palpable. What do you suggest? They discussed its structured visits, check-ins, setting honest expectations. As they talked, the tension eased slightly, but Grace kept the resolve in her heart. This was just the beginning. Jake had to prove himself, not just to her, but to Lily too. Grace's gaze flicked to her daughter, who stared in wide-eyed fascination at the conversation unfolding. This isn't about withholding love, Jake. It's about showing Lily what it really means to be a father. Lily's small hand grasped Grace's tightly, and in that moment, she leaned closer. As they negotiated terms and conditions, a sense of hope blossomed, one that felt fragile yet promising. There was still a long road ahead, but a glimmer of possibility illuminated the darkness they had been navigating. Then, Jake narrowed his gaze, showing resolve. All right, I'll take this seriously. With that, Grace felt a mix of relief and caution. I hope you do, Jake. For her. They exchanged glances, and for the first time, Grace saw a glimpse of the father he wished to become. Let us make this work then, she added, her heart full. Not just for us, but for Lily. As they stood up to leave, Grace took a breath, feeling lighter somehow. She had confronted her past and planted seeds for a better future. When they exited the cafe, the sun hit their faces, radiating warmth and new beginnings, as if it was welcoming them into a brighter tomorrow. Days turned to weeks, and the small steps they took laid the pathway for a stronger bond. They had weathered the storm together, and while the road was still bumpy, eventually, they all found a rhythm. James became the steady anchor, Grace became the fierce protector, and Jake worked diligently to redefine his role as a father. Through laughter and love, they transcended boundaries, embracing one another's quirks, fears, and unique bonds. As the seasons changed, so too did the dynamics within the Caldwell household. Family dinners were filled with laughter again, kids' stories, warmth, and blending lives. Looking back at where they started, Grace felt immense gratitude. They had transcended battles and emerged stronger, wiser. In a world focused on material wealth, they learned the true treasures came from the love shared across barriers. Lily flourished, gifted with unwavering support and the rich stories of her mother and the lessons of her father. Grace smiled, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. This was their story, one that broke cycles, healed wounds, and transformed brokenness into unity. And as she looked at their small yet beautiful family, she knew they would always find a way through together. This is the moment to embrace the beauty of growth. If you want to keep following along on this journey and see more inspiring stories like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't let another minute pass. Hit that button to not miss the exclusive content coming your way. Leave a like now to fuel that algorithm and spread the love. Your support truly matters. Comment down below with your reactions, feelings, and thoughts about this ending. And share this story instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. Your support means everything to us.